Coming up next on Backchecking the Bolts.
It's 1 minute into the overtime. The Canadiens are on the power play, and Marty calls a timeout. Just a minute into the power play.
Glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I thought
that was an interesting call.
And
it
paid off.
Just how important that power play was to Montreal.
Yeah, he knew they had the momentum. He wanted to keep his big guys out on the line. He could tell they had been cooking all game long on the power play, and he's like, if it doesn't pay off here, maybe it's talked about in the media the next day about taking it that early, but he saw a chance where his team had the advantage, and he made sure they could do everything they could to take advantage of it, and they did.
Welcome to Backchecking the Bolts. Backchecking the Bolts is your cup of coffee to get you the latest on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Join host Jason Linkus and the managing editor of Raw Charge, Justin Godfrey, as they break down the Lightning's most recent games and go beyond the highlights, telling you what the box scores didn't. It's time to drop the puck.
Well, it's time for the Instant Reaction podcast. That's right. We're here to break down the Montreal Tampa game 1. And I'm sure you all know Montreal was victorious by a score of 4-3. It was the Montreal power play leading the way with 3 power play goals. And to break it all down for you, it's Raw Charge's Justin Godfrey, our insider, my co-host each and every episode that you could read at www.rawcharge.com. Justin, I think you just completed your recap. Give me your quick thoughts right away.
Frustrating game. The Lightning did a lot of good things tonight, especially compared to some of their past playoff games, like the last 2 years against the Panthers. I thought the Lightning played a lot better than what we've seen in the postseason, but there's no moral victories in the playoffs. I mean, yes, you can outplay another team at 5-on-5, but you have to pick up the win, and the Lightning just didn't do it. It's kind of upsetting that the best part of their game for most of the season, their penalty kill, was the one that let them down. I mean, that's plain and simple. They just didn't get the job done shorthanded. And, Slafkovsky just tore them up. I mean, 3 goal scorers goals. That was the difference. The Lightning struggles at home continue. I think they're 1-10 in their last home playoff games. And I believe that's their, and I believe that's
I did not realize the record was that poor.
It was bad. It was bad. And then I believe it's their 7th straight overtime loss in the postseason. So those 2 factors, once it went to overtime, you kind of had that dreaded feeling in the back of your mind. And sure enough, they didn't even get out of the first 2 minutes, and Slafkovsky beat Vasilevsky. So yeah, not the greatest start for the Lightning in the playoffs. But that being said, overall, not a horrible game. I do think like we've talked about, this is going to be a tight series, and for you viewers, it's not going to be healthy for me. As you can see, I'm not the youngest man with the gray in my beard, and I don't have the healthiest diet. I don't know if I could take 6 more games like this. So if Jay has a new co-host by the end of the series, you'll know what has happened. So yeah.
I'll make sure I tell your wife where the health insurance or the life insurance policy.
Give her my password for my PayPal account or something. I don't know. But yeah, no, it's it's game 1. Would have been nice to win, yes. But everybody thought this game was going 6 or 7. This series is going 6 or 7 games, and it's going to be like this, I think, the entire way.
You and I both picked Tampa to win in 7. Game 1 is important, but game 1 does not dictate everything. I remember growing up, the Penguins won the Cup in 1991. They lost the first game in every single series that year. Justin, I want to talk before the game. That's when there was some news out there. Connor Geekie was added to the roster and was in the lineup. He's in. Who's out?
So, based on their practices prior to the game, looks like Oliver Bjorkstrand was the one that was out. Not only did Geekie play, but Dominic James made his return to the lineup after not playing since, I think, the end of February. It was like February 28th, I believe, was his last game. So he had a 4th line with basically 2 players that hadn't played much in the regular season. That being said, I think they did fine. It is interesting that Bjorkstrand was scratched after practicing the last 2 games. Don't know if that's a coach's decision. We have seen him healthy scratch down the stretch a little bit. So that's going to be something interesting moving forward. Not so much, 5-on-5 play, but also with the power play, because that makes that first unit pretty much all a left-handed shot, team, especially among the forwards with Hagel drawing in instead of Bjorkstrand.
Justin, Geeky did take a crucial penalty in this game. Other than the penalty, did you notice anything else about his game, positive or negative?
I thought he played all right. He was kind of moving around there. He was trying to make things happen. He drew a penalty early in the game. It was him and James kind of created a turnover, and then Geeky was tripped up on the entry. So I thought he played. It was kind of a Connor Geeky game. You don't notice him a lot unless he does something bad. Unfortunately, it was a hooking penalty he took or a slashing penalty, something like that. That led to that late power play goal in the second period for the Canadiens. So it'll be interesting to see if he draws back in. I thought he had a couple of strong games at the end of the regular season when he was getting some time, but we'll see if he's in there in game 2 or if it's Scott Samarin or Bjorkstrand in on that fourth line.
Lightning did not leave this game unscathed of injuries. Dominic James looked like he hurt the same ankle early on in the game, but he did come back. Then you had the Josh Anderson effect. He had a goal in the first, he had a disallowed goal, and then a questionable hit on Charles-Edouard Destoux. What was your thought on the hit? You see that little chicken wing elbow get thrown. I always call it the Jacob Trouba elbow because he's infamous for that. It wasn't quite that bad. It wasn't a bad hit, but I want to get your impression on the hit. He got a 2-minute minor for charging. Should he have gotten more? Should he have gotten anything?
No, I think it was the right call. Like you said, it was right after that disallowed goal. Destoux is kind of engaged with Jake Evans behind the Lightning net already, and then Anderson comes flying in out of nowhere. And honestly, he kind of missed the hit. I mean, the bulk of the hit was Anderson into the boards, but he did clip him coming through. And Evans kind of had his hands up high on Destoux when the hit was made, so I think that's kind of what rattled him up a little bit. It's Josh Anderson. He's gonna, play on the edge, and he's going to make plays like that. I thought it kind of, spiked the Lightning's emotions a little bit. They go out, they score on the power play after that. And then Hagel puts him up 2-1, 29 seconds after that. I really felt that was kind of the turning point in the game a little bit. The Lightning were driving play right there, especially after the Hagel goal. And you felt like if they could have scored that third goal, they probably win this game. But Montreal weathered the storm a little bit. They calmed down. They kind of got their game back, and then ended up tying it late in the period, and then going on and winning in overtime. So yeah, I thought it was the right call. You called the major so that you can review it. If there had been a little bit more solid contact, then maybe give him the 5 of the misconduct. But I think the officials got it right.
With Destoux being out of the lineup, they had to play 5D for pretty much the last 35 minutes of that game, maybe even a touch more. With the 5D, how did Cooper rotate those 5?
It was a lot of the top 2 pairings. If we look at the ice time right now, taking into account the power plays and everything, Moser ended up with 22 minutes. Radish was around 23, 24 minutes, and then Chernak and McDonough were around 20 and 21 minutes. You kind of, Lilleberg rotated in here and there, kind of mixed it up a little bit. I thought he handled it pretty well, but you do kind of get some of that. They're so used to their pairings, you can kind of get that little bit of confusion. So I think that's why he kind of leaned heavily on those top 2 pairs down the stretch. So it's going to be interesting to see who rotates in if Destoux can't go. Crozier is healthy again. You could flip Lilleberg back to the left-hand side, bring in Crozier. I think if Destoux can't go, that's probably what they go with in game 2. But we'll have to see how things go, over the next 2 days, see how he feels.
Justin, we've been hearing that Hedman has started to skate with the team. The last couple days, apparently he's been in Brandon with the team. Is there any chance it could be Hedman if Destoux can't go?
Not game 2. Pretty much Cooper talked about it, said, he's going to travel with the team when they go up to Montreal for games 3 and 4, but it didn't sound like he had any indications that he was going to get into the lineup anytime soon. There was some footage of him skating at the optional morning skate. He was just kind of going through the motions. So I do think he's probably a ways away. Probably be looking at towards the end of the series if he does come back.
The story of this game was the power play. Both teams looked exceptional on the power play. Montreal with 3 power play goals, Tampa with 2. Let's start with Tampa first. I thought the Lightning power play, at first when they got the Radish goal, Montreal was giving them the points. After the Radish goal, the power play seemed to run through Jake Gensel near the goal line area. Do you think that's going to be a strategy for Montreal moving forward to try to nullify the Radish bomb from the point?
I think the teams that have had success against the Lightning power play have pressured Kucherov, they've pressured Radish, and they've kind of gone out of their way to pressure the points for the Lightning. So that does open up Gensel down low. When the Lightning were struggling early in the year in the playoff, or in the season, I should say, with their power play, that was something that turned them around at that point. Was Gensel's play down low? You draw Kucherov a little bit higher up, opens up that space down low, and Gensel can either walk out to take the shot, or it opens up a lane for him to hit somebody on the far post, which is basically what he did in this game, with Hagel getting positioned in front of the net and tapping home the feed from him. If the Lightning can have success with that on the power play, that's going to draw attention back to Gensel, open up some space for Kucherov. The Radish goal was kind of a broken play a little bit. There was a broken stick on the play. I think Jake Evans didn't have a stick, which opened up some extra lanes, gave Radish a little bit more space. It was kind of at that point where you wondered if the Lightning were ever going to score again, because just prior to his goal, they had rattled one. I think they went crossbar, post crossbar,
double ding
out. The double ding, and you're like, good Lord, they're never going to score. But, they kept with it. They did a really good job with puck possession, I thought, on the power play, retrieving pucks, keeping the play in the zone. And even though they didn't score on their first three, I thought they had some good possession time or getting some good looks at the net. So it's a good sign. I mean, this is a team that scored all of 2 power play goals in 5 games against the Panthers last year. They got 2 in their first game. They looked good, which was, something that's important, and they generated some chances. Let's not overlook the way Dobish played in this game. I thought in the first period he made a couple really key saves. I know there was one on Chernak, and I think there was one on McDonough. A couple defensemen that dropped down low. Or no, it was Radish. He made a nice save on that first power play that they had. So, he kind of kept Montreal in the game, let them get the lead, and then he made the saves when he had to. And that's a big reason why Montreal won this game. So
Let's talk about Montreal's power play. Now, they had 3 power play goals. Slafkovsky had all 3. I actually didn't think their entries were that crisp. I thought Tampa did a pretty good job of keeping Montreal out of the zone initially on their rushes. But when they did get set up, they were deadly. What did Montreal do against the Lightning penalty kill that gave them so many issues?
I just really moved the puck with speed. I mean, their passing was really crisp once they did get set up. That Demidov pass on, I believe, is Slafkovsky's, was it his first goal? Yeah, his first power play goal. I mean, that's a Kucherov-like pass. Demidov's in the slot, basically a high slot. He's looking right at the goalie. It's a no-look pass that went past at least 2 sticks, right on Slafkovsky's stick, and he was able to one-time it home. Vasilevsky almost made the save. His glove was just, inches away from knocking that out. But it's, that kind of crisp passing. Same thing on the third power play goal, the one early in the third period. It was just really nice passing. The Lightning kind of got lost in their coverage a little bit. Moser had kind of lost Slafkovsky a little bit. I think he thought there was a player behind him, so he stayed on that back post, opened up Slafkovsky in the slot, and he just beat, Vasi pretty cleanly. And then same thing on the third one. That was one. It was a really close entry. Caulfield makes a nice play, gets it to Hudson, who slides it down low. And we were talking about before it. I don't think Vasilevsky was ready for the shot. He looked a little bit off his line, and I think Slafkovsky just kind of surprised him with a shot, beat him under the arm, right inside the far post. It's a goal scorer's goal. Sometimes you just got to tip your hat to the guy shooting the puck. And it's just unfortunate, for the Lightning that they just can't seem to get over this overtime hump right now.
I thought Vasilevsky was a little bit surprised, a left-handed shot at the left dot, taking that shot. You typically don't see that on a power play. But hey, like you said, it's a goal scorer's goal. Guys who score goals, they shoot the puck. They know when to put it on net. Justin, I know you mentioned you thought the turning point was the Lightning not being able to capitalize after the Hagel goal, but I thought the Slafkovsky first goal to make it 2-2 going into the third period was huge for Montreal after they gave up the lead. And I thought the Lightning were starting to press Montreal. They were having the better of the play on 5-on-5. They really took it to Montreal until that power play and Slafkovsky scoring. I think that gave Montreal a huge boost going into the third.
Yeah, you never like to give up those late goals. That the last period, last minute of the period, and first minute of the period, you just don't want to give up goals. You feel like if the Lightning get into the clubhouse, into the locker room with that lead at the end of 2-1, now you're forcing Montreal to kind of press a little bit and you can counter off of it. I thought the Lightning, for the most part, did a really good job slowing them down through the neutral zone. And that was kind of one of my keys to, the Lightning winning the games. If the Lightning had been able to keep that shape, kind of, didn't have to go for a goal, could kind of sit back, slow them down in the neutral zone and then counterattack. I think that, the outcome's probably a little bit different. But, you give up that last minute goal and it's, it kind of changes the whole complexion of the game. Like I said, now Montreal has a little bit of a momentum going into the period. They weathered the storm, like I said earlier. And then they scored the one, it was 4 or 5 minutes into the third period. Now they're the ones playing with the lead and they can bleed the clock a little bit and force the Lightning to come out of their shell. So it's just a good back and forth game, honestly. You hate to be on the wrong side of it, but it was an entertaining game. It was fun. It had a little bit of an edge to it. Power play goals. You saw a lot of offense. You saw some nice saves. So I have a feeling, this is what we're in for in this series.
I think we're in for 7 tight games moving forward. Justin, I know you like the way that Brandon Hagel played, but you also like Zegmas Girgensons as well. What did you like about their games tonight?
For Hagel, I mean, that's just a Brandon Hagel game. He's going 100 miles an hour every minute of the game. He was back out there. He was getting chances down low, especially on the power play. He was just kind of all over the ice. As far as the offensive zone, he was one of the few players attacking the net. He had a couple chances that, another thing to give Montreal credit for is they blocked a ton of shots. And I thought Hagel had two or three looks. Yeah, Hagel had 2 or 3 shots from looks from the slot where it just hit a skate or it hit a stick and went wide. So I thought he was one of the few Lightning players driving play. It's good to see that. If that's happening, then the Lightning, that second line can score some goals and kind of be a difference maker in this series.
Justin, were there any players that you thought on either side that had an off game?
We talked about Geeky a little bit taking that penalty. Gonçalves had the turnover that led to the first goal. I wouldn't say that overall they had bad games. I would say they had bad moments in a game. And you kind of want to see another one I would think about, Braden Point. I thought he had some small flashes, but overall pretty quiet for the game. He struggled to score goals down the stretch. I think he's one of the key players that you have to get him going if you're going to want to win. And I just didn't quite see. He just still seems just a little bit off in the offensive zone. I think he may be in his own head. I actually thought for probably the first half of the game, a lot of the Lightning players were kind of in their own head as far as when it came to the offensive zone. They were making these nice plays in the neutral zone, getting possession. They would get into the offensive zone and it would just break down. It almost seemed like they didn't know quite what they wanted to do with the puck. And then they almost Costanza it a little bit. Every decision they made was the wrong decision. So,
just do the opposite.
Just do the opposite, at this point,
I'm 40. I'm unemployed. I live with my parents. Do you want to go out?
That's right. There was one play, I want to say it was Gensel coming in. He had somebody open on his wing. Instead of passing it, he tries to shoot it. It gets blocked and goes up into the netting. So there's little things like that where I think they were kind of doubting themselves a little bit. And I did think that changed after the Hagel goal. I thought they were playing with a little bit more confidence. They just, in the end, kind of didn't generate enough chances down low. I thought a lot of their stuff came from the perimeter. Looking at the stats after the game at 5-on-5, they were credited with just one high danger chance, which in a playoff game, it's not.
That's hard to believe.
It's just not. You've got to get to the front of the net. It's going to be the ugly goals that win. And yeah, it's kind of funny to say that in a game where Slafkovsky ripped off 3 beautiful goals to win, but you're going to have to get in front of the net. You're going to have to take Dobish's eyes away from him. Get some rebounds. I thought he was able to see a lot of pucks clearly that the Lightning shot at him. He was able to stop them. There weren't many rebounds. So I think you get in front, you get some traffic in front of him. You make his life a little more difficult. And the Lightning can, they can still pull this out. I'm not thinking
it's one game.
Yeah, it's one game. They go out, they play well in the second game, kind of, maybe cut down on the penalties a little bit. Keep the sticks down, boys. Don't keep, giving each other shaves. And then, maybe it's a little different outcome if they play a little more at 5-on.
I thought both teams took a number of undisciplined penalties, the high sticking penalties especially. I expect that to go away as the series progresses. I also think that when you look at history, NHL officials have a tendency to put the whistle away the longer series go. Game one, game two, you have a tendency to get more power plays. As the series goes, they put away the whistle. I think that benefits Tampa because right now, and you had mentioned a stat to me, Justin, earlier, I think it was a couple days ago, about how much Montreal has relied on the power play against Tampa. Moving forward, Montreal has to find a way to score 5-on-5 if they're going to win in this series.
Yeah, you figure their 1 5-on-5 goal came basically. I mean, it was a nice play by Alex Carrier. He came down low. He
Really
forced,
nice.
yeah, he
That was a
forced
good play.
Gonzalez to rush the puck handling. And the puck comes right out to Josh Anderson. And it's always got to be somebody like Josh Anderson. That was almost more annoying than Slavkovsky's hat trick was the fact that Josh Anderson scored. 5-on-5, again, the Lightning, I thought defensively, especially, they had a really good game. They really neutralized that Suzuki line at 5-on-5. They weren't allowing too many breakaways. I think there were a couple 2-on-1s in the first, but Montreal wasn't really generating a ton of offense at 5-on-5. And I do think the Lightning are a better, deeper team at 5-on-5. That being said, it's great to win the 5-on-5 battle, but if you're not winning the goal scored battle, it just doesn't matter in the playoffs. You don't
And if you
have
look at
10
the
games to
last
get it
three
together.
Montreal Tampa games, it's been a similar recipe. Tampa dominates 5-on-5. Montreal finds a way to cash in at the right time, and they've won the last 3 games against Tampa.
And they played really well with the lead. The Lightning have put pressure on them. They haven't cracked. It just keeps coming back to this is going to be a tough series. I don't see either team really, giving the other a lot of room. There wasn't a lot of space. There were a couple 4-on-4s where I thought the Lightning looked really good when they did have, a little more space on the ice. But, the Lightning got to find a way to just keep grinding away in the offensive zone. They got to score these ugly goals. You get 1 or 2, I think, you relax your hands on the sticks a little bit. You stop gripping, you stop turning the stick into splinters with your grip, and the goals start coming once they relax a little bit. So we'll see how they go, what they take from this game, what they build on, what can they do. We'll see if there's any lineup changes too. If Coops, shuffles the lines around, maybe moves Kucherov down to that Cirelli line and puts Gensel back up with Point and Gonzalez. But, we'll see. It's all about adjustments. It was kind of odd. It's 1 minute into the overtime. The Canadiens are on the power play, and Marty calls a timeout. Just a minute into the power play.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I thought that
was an interesting call.
Yep,
It showed just how important that power play was to Montreal.
Yeah, he knew they had the momentum. He wanted to keep his big guys out on the line. He could tell they had been cooking all game long on the power play, and he's like, hey, if it doesn't pay off here, maybe it's talked about in the media the next day about taking it that early, but he saw a chance where his team had the advantage, and he made sure they could do everything they could to take advantage of it, and they did. So, Marty had a really good game behind the bench, I thought. Like I said, not only that timeout, but like I said, after the Hagel goal, getting his team kind of calmed down and back to their style of play was really good. And the guy's just a good coach.
In overtime, the first minute of that power play, because I think Gensel took the penalty with about 20 seconds left.
A minute 40. Yeah.
A minute 40. Okay. So the first minute of that power play, pretty much the 19-minute mark, Tampa had the puck, consistently shooting the puck down the length of the ice. So Montreal's having to go 200 feet each time trying to get the puck in the zone. Do you think if they had been set up in the Tampa zone, he calls that timeout? I think he called the timeout because those guys had to work for a minute, continually going up and down the ice. I think that's where he realized those guys were a little bit winded.
Yeah, that's a good call. He wanted to make sure that they were ready to go. I think he was going to throw them over the boards no matter what had happened. They were going to finish that power play. But there was on the entry, there was a little tiny play where Brandon Hagel goes to, I think it was Caulfield. He tries to knock the puck away at the line, and he stumbles a little bit. And that really opened up the lane for Hudson to get the pass to Slafkovsky for the shot. I think if Hagel's able to stay on his skates right there, he's able to get back and block that passing lane. So it just goes to show you like how minor things can affect a game here. So like I said, if Hagel doesn't lose his footing, maybe Hudson doesn't try that pass. In these short series, in these 7-game series, it's going to be the little things like that are going to be the difference in the game. So, yeah, it's the little things like that to look out for. It's playoff hockey. It's a bummer the Lightning were on the wrong side of this one, and hopefully they can shake it off. They've been really good at turning the pages this year and moving on. Hopefully that can carry over into the playoffs.
Justin, game 2, Tuesday night, 7:00, back in Tampa. What changes do you think John Cooper might make heading into game 2?
If Bjorkstrand's ready to go, I wouldn't be surprised to see him get back into the lineup. I don't know if he gets bumped back up to that first power play unit, especially since they did score twice. But I think he does. The guy's a hard worker. He's a smart player. Defensively, he's really good. He hasn't been scoring at 5-on-5 this year, but I think he's a really hard worker, and he makes that he would make that fourth line, especially with Dominic James back in the rotation, a little bit stronger than I think Geekie does right now. I think Connor Geekie is going to be a really good player at the NHL level. A lot of folks, he's going to top out as a really good AHL player. I mean, the dude's 21 years old. He's got less than 2 full seasons at NHL level. If he makes the roster next year, he's still going to be the youngest player on the Lightning. So I think he's got some room to grow. I wouldn't mind seeing him get sent back down to Syracuse at some point so you can help them off in their playoff run, which should start up next week. But yeah, I would like to see Bjorkstrand back in. We talked about the defense, what kind of changes they can make if this dude can't go. But yeah, I don't think he tweaks up too much as far as the other 3 lines. I thought they did all right at 5-on-5.
Justin, let's take a look around the NHL. On Saturday, I'll say this, the one result that really surprised me, the Minnesota Wild won. That didn't surprise either one of us because we both have the Wild winning the series. The fact that they dismantled Dallas 6-1 really surprised me.
Yeah, I think, I hate to say it, but Jake Ottinger's going to start having some questions at this point now. He was pulled in, was it the Game 7 last year? That
after
coach getting fired.
After 2 goals right
after
away.
2 goals, they give up 6 in Game 1 against the Wild. I think this is your typical, we're going to overreact to a result game. Dallas isn't going anywhere.
Surprising.
Yeah. Dallas isn't going to go anywhere. I think that series still goes, 5 or 6 games, 6 or 7 games, something like that. They're going to bounce back, but it is always funny that you have one game in like the first opening series where everyone's like, well, it's over. Just go ahead and give the cup to the Wild. They figured it out. This is a team that hasn't won a first round in, I don't know, seems like forever. So yeah, they still got to win 3 more games. But that being said, I thought they looked really good. I mean, Kaprizov, Matt Boldy, their big stars came through when they needed them.
The stars showed up.
Exactly. So we'll see if Dallas can counter that. I think they're kind of in the same boat as the Lightning right now. Yes, you lost Game 1, but hey, we've been through this before. I mean, that's a veteran team. They've been to a few conference finals. They're not going to get rattled. They're going to come out and have a good game too.
Justin, I know you just did your recap on Raw Charge. What do you have going on the rest of the day?
So we'll go ahead and kind of do our morning after thoughts, a little bit more in-depth talk about what happened tonight. We'll have that posted up probably sometime tomorrow afternoon. We'll preview Game 2. We'll have some thoughts about what Coach Cooper and the players said in their post-game press conferences and kind of go from there, see what the Lightning need to do to turn this thing around.
We will be back for our instant reaction of Game 2 coming up. That podcast will be dropping on Wednesday. Please like and subscribe to us. We appreciate all the support. For Justin Godfrey, who you could read at Raw Charge, www.rawcharge.com, I'm Jason Linkus. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night and go Bolts.
Go Bolts.
Thank you for listening to Backchecking the Bolts. We are free and available on all platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, YouTube, and Deezer. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. You can follow Justin on Blue Sky at rawcharge.com. You can follow the show on X at Tampa_Bolts_pod and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Backchecking the Bolts. If you're interested in advertising on the show or partnering with us, you can find more information in the show notes or email Jason at backcheckingthebolts@yahoo.com.